Welcome to Category Visionaries, the show dedicated to exploring exciting visions for the future from the founders who are on the front lines building it. In each episode, we'll speak with a visionary founder who's building a new category or reimagining an existing one. We'll learn about the problem they solve, how their technology works, and unpack their vision for the future. I'm your host, Brett Stapper, CEO of Frontlines Media. Now let's dive right into today's episode. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Category Visionaries. Today we're speaking with Brian Glick, founder and CEO of Chain.io, a logistics tech platform that's raised $18 million in funding. Brian, what's going on?
It's great to be here.
Really excited to have you here. And I'm excited because you're building awesome technology, but also excited that I have another podcast host that's on. So we'll be talking a lot about your company and a lot about the podcast. Before we jump into the podcast, tell us about the company, tell us about everything that you're building.
Sure. So as everyone learned during the pandemic and has learned since, moving things around the planet is really hard. And so what we do at Chain is we move the data that needs to move around in order for freight to move. So we help connect some of the largest freight companies in the world, all of their systems inside, along with some giant retail brands and all the millions of messages that have to go around to track all those boxes and get them through customs and all the other fun stuff. So technically we are called vertical iPaaS or vertical integration software, but very deeply in the shipping and logistics space.
And do you come from that world, or how'd you end up in this world?
I do. I dropped out of college in the 90s, got a job cutting cable and hooking up green screen dumb terminals in a company that was in the customs business. And over the course of many years with that company, I grew to love the complexity of supply chain and logistics as much as I love technology. And so the combination of the two has just been my life's work at this point.
You must have felt great then during COVID when everyone started talking about it. Because I feel like that was like all of a sudden in the mainstream, everyone was talking about supply chain. And like there are people who probably normally didn't talk about supply chain.
It's be careful what you wish for, right? Because all the attention was interesting, but it was also a lot of attention because it was really, really hard and really stressful. One of the more surreal things was when outdoor dining was kind of kicking on was I was sitting outside at a restaurant. I get a phone call from the local NBC affiliate and they're like, can you do an interview right now? Because we need to talk about supply chain issues on our local broadcast. And I was like, that is a phone call I never thought I would get.
I bet. So how insane or how intense was COVID for you?
It was pretty intense. I said repeatedly, I'm glad that I had a software company because I used to be in the businesses that had the problems. And being on the software side, what we ended up doing was a lot of coaching of our customers because we deal with, as a connectivity company, everyone was trying to figure out how to use new tech to be more efficient and to work remotely and how to make that work with very, very old technology. So because we were doing it with lots of companies, we were able to provide a lot of coaching and guidance to our customers to help them adapt faster, which was really interesting work to do. Again, I would never wish that it happens ever again to anyone, but it's really fun as a person who kind of comes from an engineering background to have a really hard problem to work on.
I think with COVID, there was obviously a lot of negative, a lot of downsides. For a lot of tech companies that I know, it was a positive for them because they saw adoption. It was almost forced technology adoption. For you, was there a difference in your sales conversations pre-COVID, post-COVID?
Yeah, and I would say even during COVID. So one of the things that we learned in kind of getting into the founding of our company, so we founded in 2017, and we were talking about very complex data issues and how to think about integration and data movement and data as an asset in 2017, and that category did not exist in supply chain. And so it really wasn't until the tail end of COVID that the things that I had seen as a founder in 2016 that led to me starting the company were things that my customers started understanding. So COVID probably accelerated people's understanding of the fact that being able to efficiently move data around was a first tier problem, a strategic problem in their company, as opposed to a thing you tack on the end of some other project. So it was really a journey through that. One of the things I will say for any software company is it is really great when your customers have an acute problem until that problem gets so painful that they can't process new information and can't buy from you. And we did see that during COVID, that like a little bit of pain is good for sales. And I know today a lot of software companies are seeing this just with all the uncertainty in the economy. When it gets too much pain, people freeze up. And so we had like an uptick in sales. And then towards the end of COVID, it got too painful and we saw a downswing. And then it came back as people sort of had more certainty in their business again.
What about certainty right now, just with tariffs? Obviously, tariffs are everywhere. It's not, a political discussion, but like that's obviously happening in this space. Like, what's your sentiment? What are your customers talking about? How are they preparing? How are they navigating?
So most of our customers are either very large companies that have put mitigation strategies in place from the first time we were having tariff conversations back in 2016 during the first Trump administration, or the logistics and providers and the shipping companies who are seeing this as a opportunity to provide more service to their customers by being ahead of it and being able to use that data to maybe coach their customers on how to do better. So for us as a software provider, what has been extremely important is we help our customers go faster through these problems. So we had one customer who works with a really, really big clothing company, and all of the way that they had to rejig their whole supply chain almost overnight because of the tariffs. And that meant rejigging all the systems and all the data. And so this service provider was a small player in their network because they use technology to say, we can take all of your information and make it work the new way tomorrow. They won a whole bunch more business because they were faster, right? And that's really what we're seeing right now across not just tariffs, but also AI, is where we help our customers go faster, they win. And almost more important than anything else is speed right now.
That makes sense. I can see that. What about the go-to-market? So talk to us about the early go-to-market strategy, and then how has it evolved? What's it look like today?
So I would say, as a somewhat technical founder, though I did have a bit of a sales background, the go-to-market at the beginning was hard because we were too early to market for our category, right? Mm-hmm. And it was a lot of, having been in the industry a long time, I had a lot of contacts and it was founder-led sales, and that worked, and that got us to a certain point. And then there was a point where we made a mistake in that we tried to create a very standard SaaS BDR, SDR style go-to-market machine, A, before the market was ready to buy from us in that way, and B, in a legacy industry that is not used to buying software in that way and buys on relationships. Mm-hmm. So our go-to-market strategy has almost come full circle, where it's no longer just me, but it's much more about live events, working with people, helping them understand their problems in a very consultative way, as opposed to this rapid scale kind of like just get things out there. Because when we work with large enterprise customers in shipping, nothing is simple and no decision is made by one person who's going to click a buy now button on your website, right? You're talking about rolling something out to 40 countries sometimes. It is a executive-led process. So we've kind of taken playbooks from, like, I think more about how does SAP sell in my business than how does HubSpot sell, as an example.
What was your biggest learning when you transitioned out of founder-led sales? I know a lot of the founders listening in, myself included, that's one of the hardest things, but it's a very hard thing to do, take yourself out of sales.
So I've never taken myself out of sales. Actually, my biggest learning was not to take myself out of sales. Right, is that as a founder, I am an incredible asset to my team, but that doesn't mean I have to be on every meeting. And finding that balance, and I'm saying this from the position of enterprise sales, right, where it is okay for us to put a year into a relationship before we close something because our ACV covers it, that it actually decreases the value of me coming in at the end if I'm there at the beginning, and trusting my sales team to do things without me and then bring me in at the right moment, as opposed to feeling like this is my baby and I need to be there every step of the way. So finding that balance was very, very hard for me because I like talking to customers. It's my favorite thing to do. And going, okay, I should not be here at this moment because I'm disempowering my salesperson and putting us in a position where I can't come in at the end and kind of help close the negotiation because I'm too involved in the deal. I had to learn that, and I will guarantee you that the people who taught it to me did not like the process of getting me to listen.
This show is brought to you by Frontlines Media, a podcast production studio that helps B2B founders launch, manage, and grow their own podcast. Now, if you're a founder, you may be thinking, I don't have time to host a podcast. I've got a company to build. Well, that's exactly what we built our service to do. You show up and host, and we handle literally everything else. To set up a call to discuss launching your own podcast, visit frontlines.io/podcast. Now, back to today's episode.
Well, we were talking pre-interview. You have a podcast, so it sounds
Mhm.
like you found a different channel to have those conversations with customers. Can you tell us a bit more about the podcast, when you launched, why you launched, and then we'll dig into some other questions from there.
Yeah. So we launched the podcast almost day one, somewhere within the first year. And the reason we did it was primarily because it's free marketing, or it was at the time. And this is, the space was less crowded. And also because I love talking to people and it was a way to do that. And, the other thing it did more early in our life cycle than now, where I just sort of like to talk to people and I just called the people I want to talk to. But when we were early, it was a really good way to build relationships with people that I did ultimately want to sell to. So if we listen to a lot of, not all, but a lot of our early podcasts, it was people that I was in an active sales cycle or building with, or we had done something cool and I wanted to get that message out there. And it was a really good way to tighten a bond with someone who then was going to be in a multi-year relationship with us, because as an integration company, we're kind of critical infrastructure, which means we think about lifetime value in a, 10-year frame with our customers. So building relationships matters a lot because again, it's not like I'm going to buy a pack of gum and then I'm never going to see the person again. This is a 10-year journey we have 10-year contracts with some of our customers.
Wow. What about the ROI? How do you think about measuring the ROI of the podcast? That's a question that I hear all the time.
Very, very simple. I don't.
No.
We don't at all. I don't look at any of the metrics. I couldn't tell you how many listeners we have. I know that I've gotten a CIO of a major freight company has on a Saturday afternoon sent me a screenshot of my podcast on the Apple Play screen on his car while he was driving his kids to soccer practice. And I know how much that one customer pays me is more than I've ever invested in the podcast. So there's my ROI. I don't believe in enterprise sales that marketing attribution, unless you are at an extremely large scale, is anything more than kind of a fiction that we tell ourselves to justify the things we want to do anyway. So I just have skipped that step and said, I enjoy doing it. It doesn't take a lot of time and it provides some brand value that you cannot measure.
Are your first episodes painful to listen to? And I asked that because I have my early episodes, they make me sad. I listened to one the other day and my evolution as a host from 0 to 1,200 podcasts evolved a lot, as you can imagine.
I don't know, because I haven't really done that very much. I would say that probably not. And again, it gets to it's a very one-on-one conversation. I'm sure I'm better at it now, but I've always enjoyed talking to people. And because we don't set a clear target for it other than highlighting people's interesting stories, as long as the guest has a good time and as long as one person about 3 times a year tells me that they listen and that they enjoyed the podcast, then I consider it a win. I've never invested in a studio. We've never invested in doing anything fancier. We don't do video because frankly, I find it makes people more comfortable to not have to present themselves that way. And we get to have some really fascinating conversations. So, for me, that's just a win.
I admire that you've been able to withstand the video pressure, because it probably even in this invite, it said, audio only. We're still audio only, but more and more I'm looking at all of our other podcasts that do have a video element, and the video clips, like not the full length video, but the video clips just.
It has been, that's the thing is, it makes it hard to make the social post without the video at this point. So
yeah. It seems like everything's pushing you towards video as well. I don't know if you're feeling that with your podcast, but more and more we're feeling that with our podcast. Like Spotify rolling out that video is now native in the platform. Like we're feeling the pressure to move into video and can't decide what we want to do with that yet.
Yeah, I'm going to keep doing, my whole thing has been, even with starting Chain, if I don't love it, I'm not going to do it because I could go get a job, right? And dollar and risk adjusted, had I stayed in a larger company, and I mean, when I left, I was a senior vice president of a company. Like I was not kind of a kid, coming out of school, just trying to figure something out.
Mm-hmm.
I would have more money in my bank account today as a founder who has a lot of paper equity and less cash. I would have a lot more money in the bank account today if I had not started a company, right? And if I just sat down and shut up and let private equity firms buy and sell the companies I worked for. But that's no fun. And
Yeah.
so I do everything based on not having a deferred life plan and doing things that I know I'm going to enjoy and that contribute in some positive way to something. So based on that measure, the podcast is a success and the business is a success.
I feel like I knew that about you within 2 minutes of meeting you on this call when you were talking about where you are today, the fact that you're in Barcelona, that you just went there for fun, you wanted an adventure. I think that says a lot about the personality.
Yeah, we did that move at the beginning of the year with the family, and it's been a very positive experience. And actually being in shipping and logistics is kind of a superpower to being Europe because it is the place that logistics was born and still very passionately a hub. You go to cities like Barcelona or Hamburg, Germany, and everyone knows what shipping is. It's not like in America where you had to teach people what supply chain was. So it's been pretty cool to be closer to that center of energy.
What else from a marketing perspective are you doing to drive awareness and drive demand?
So we focus almost all of our energy onto physical in-person event activity and LinkedIn. And I think part of this is being an infrastructure company that's mission critical. We don't like to get too clever with our marketing, and, brand trust matters. And like you don't really want your bank out there doing fancy things. And, maybe they're also experimenting with your money. And those of us who lived through 2008 know what that feels like. So, we keep it pretty much locked into a couple of things that we know work. Attending the industry events that we need to be at and being present is extremely important to us. And then LinkedIn and the activity that I personally do on LinkedIn is more valuable than the company activity we do just because of the way the algorithms work. But we have found that, as a very conscious strategy, because I'm able to do it and not every founder has the passion for it, me getting on stages and me being very present. And actually yesterday, one of our salesperson just got enrolled to do his first speaking on a stage. So, and it's certainly not the first person in our company, but encouraging our employees to go out there and show their expertise to the market in person is incredibly valuable when we have a product that if people buy it, they are putting a lot of their personal capital at risk in their company, right? It's a large investment, and showing our expertise in person really makes a big difference for us.
I'm seeing that trend for sure. Like people don't want to follow companies, they want to follow people. And I'm also seeing, I guess, the second trend of like the shift away from it just being the CEO. For a long time, that's what we were doing. We were helping companies establish thought leadership, and it was all about the CEO. More and more now, we have companies say, here are 10 people on my team. They're thought leaders in their own unique and special ways. We're going to put them out into the market, have them be loud on LinkedIn. And for the companies that are doing that, I feel like it's just working very well. And I'm seeing that all over my LinkedIn feed now. It's different voices, which I think is good.
I actually also see it as an ethical obligation to our employees, right? That, one of the things that I learned from being in the same industry for a very long time is, we released a new product feature the other day and we've been out trying to show it to the market. And one of the people that I was on the phone with yesterday, I hadn't talked to her in 15 years, but we were coworkers, before then. And she's now at a very large company, and we sat down and, she looked at it and she gave us great feedback, and, maybe they will buy it from us. But if I don't allow my employees to build that for themselves, they need to be 5 jobs from now in 15 years or 20 years and have that network themselves. And so I see it as part of our responsibility to help them build that for their future selves.
This show is brought to you by the Global Talent Co., a marketing leader's best friend in these times of budget cuts and efficient growth. We help marketing leaders find, hire, vet, and manage amazing marketing talent for 50 to 70% less than their U.S. and European counterparts. To book a free consultation, visit globaltalent.co.
That's a great point. I haven't thought about it that way, but that's a great point. What type of training and resources do you provide to teach these folks, how to think like a thought leader and how to be like LinkedIn influencer? Because it's a muscle. And I would guess that, at least what I see, like the very technical people, for some it's easy, but for some, like this kind of goes against like everything that like how they operate.
So we don't force it, right? So nobody needs to do it. There's never an obligation to make a social post in any way in our company. But the people who want to do it, the advice that I give them personally is I give them 2 pieces of advice. The first piece of advice is do whatever feels natural and be honest. right? And that if you don't try to optimize for, don't read 100 blog posts and then try to optimize because you just end up sounding like an AI, right? You have to be yourself and you have to have your own personality. And the second is to remember what I think is the single most important thing, which is the internet has like a 30-second memory. So as long as you don't do anything ridiculously stupid or obnoxious, which frankly, I don't think people should do that in general. If you put out a post that, like the way I tell them, I say, look, if you put out a post and nobody likes it and nobody reads it, you didn't do any harm, right?
Yeah.
But people are so afraid to get out there. Nobody's thinking about, like what is the 5th most recent post you read on LinkedIn? You can't answer that question. Nobody can answer that question, right? So don't worry about it. The consequence of doing it poorly is literally nothing. Like there is no consequence. And so people spend so much time thinking about it. So what we tell our team, find your own voice, do what you want to do, and if it involves mentioning the company, then all the better, right? Because frankly, most people's biggest problem is inaction, not taking the wrong action.
Well, it's like you're saying there, it's almost human nature, right? Like you think that other people are thinking about you when in reality, like they don't care. Like no one's sitting here and be like, oh, Brian, did you see his post 2 weeks ago? Only had 1 like. Like no one gives a shit.
I mean, what's very flattering from having done quite a bit of it at this point, I have actually gotten DMs from people going, you haven't posted a video in a while. Because I do these kind of little walking videos on LinkedIn, and I've been doing actually less of them since I moved. It's a little weird walking in a foreign country and speaking English while talking into a camera. There's a lot of politics around that in Barcelona right now. But I've actually had people come up to me and say like, hey, I haven't seen a video in a while and I look forward to those, which is extremely flattering. But, you're right. Like nobody really cares.
It's a good reminder, I think, just posting on social and in life, like you're saying there's zero risk. If your biggest risk is like no one cares, that no one notices, like that's a good risk. And like the chances that you're going to post something that is so offensive that it causes harm, like unless you're just being an idiot, like that's probably very yeah, like
if I have to tell you not to do that, you're going to do it anyway. So
yeah, it's true. What about like rolling out that program? Any other lessons learned? And like I was saying, like this is a hot trend. People are talking about it. You go back. What do you call that? Do you call it like citizen thought leadership, executive thought leadership? Like, do you have a name for what you're doing?
No, I know that's not exciting, and it's why I'll probably never sell a book about it. But we just talk to our employees a lot, and we mention it in all hands meetings, and we encourage it. And certainly, there have been people in my company who have then come to me one-on-one and say, "I want to do more of this," and like, what feedback do you have? Certainly, with the sales team, we talk about it a lot because them building their personal brands helps the company very directly. But I avoid words like program because they drag you in the direction of now it's a formal thing, and then we're going to put a KPI around it. And then people feel obligated to do it. And then this stuff gets impersonal. And that's how you become the company I don't want to work at. And so I try to just not start down that slippery slope. So, it's, much more for us about it being organic and natural, because one of the things that we do that may be interesting is when an employee onboards with us, they get a document that's called our brand values. And it got some things about colors and whatever in it, but it's mainly like, what is our core values and all this stuff. But the thing that they read or hear about in their first day with me is the brand values internal to the company and the brand values from a marketing are the same, right? And that we live in a world now where you cannot sustain having an internal culture and an external culture. It always leaks. So by living it, it makes it really easy. And I remember my parents told me this when I was a teenager, like, if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember the lies, right? And life just gets easier. And so we just sort of lived that. And, we're not perfect, but, I do think that the easiest way to make this stuff happen is by creating an environment where it happens naturally, as opposed to making it a checklist, an Airtable grid where somebody has to fill in that they did X, Y, or Z.
I think you can feel that too. Like when I am on LinkedIn, all of a sudden I see a company ramp up posts, like you can tell if it's like part of a company-wide strategy. They're just, kind of reposting things. Like you can tell if it's, I don't want to say it's inauthentic, but you can tell if it's like a detailed strategy. I think what you said is probably true. If they're using the word program, then you could probably tell that it's a program.
We do use some technology. So like one of the things we've done recently that somebody built for us internally is we have a custom GPT called Brand Voice.
Yeah.
So if you want to say, make me a social post about X, it will make them a social post that uses the terminology that we prefer and avoids, like we have a list of buzzwords that we hate. And so it'll make sure none of those buzzwords are in there and it'll help them tighten it up. So we have some things to facilitate it. But again, if you make it required, you just make your employees miserable, right?
Yeah.
Like who wants to come in and hear, like I remember this when Facebook's first started coming out and there were bosses who were going to people and saying, you must post on your personal Facebook about the company, right? And like, it feels, I mean, it's just cringe, but like back then, like I had bosses say that or coworkers saying that to employees. And I'm like, why would I want to work for you if that's how you view me, right?
Yeah, 100%. What about the marketing team that you've built out? How big is the marketing team and what have you learned from building that team out?
So it's very small, and we recently actually give her a shout out, but Molly, who was our most recent head of marketing, just took a much better job, which we are always excited when our employees find better jobs. And we have a kind of a belief that you should leave for a better job than the one you had before us. And so we use some contractors and we are kind of very scrappy with it. And frankly, the automation we've been able to build in the last year, I could not have gone as light and lean with contractors as we are today a year or two ago. But the ability to generate video and generate audio and build content from having like an internal employee just sort of narrate something in a way that is not marketing friendly and have it come out the other side as marketing friendly, that pipeline has become very efficient for us to the point where we're able to not automate all of it, but get someone's idea to a presentable way without a bunch of people touching it, which has really just changed the way, like my entire thinking on what marketing is has changed dramatically in the last year.
Final question for you. I'm saying we're getting close to being over on time. Let's talk about the big picture vision. So 3 years out, 5 years out, paint a picture for us. What does the company look like? What is that big picture vision?
You want the really scary answer? The really scary answer is I have no idea. It's the honest answer. And I'm going to tell you that that's largely because of AI. And what we're doing right now is I know in the long run how important moving data around is to the shipping industry and the logistics industry and to our customers. I know the mechanical things that we have to do for the next 3 years to continue on the path we're on now. And I also know that if we want to be around in 10 years or 20 years, that path is not going to be there anymore because the things that we do today will not be, the same way that somebody could have been a copywriter 2 years ago and now they've been replaced completely by a custom GPT. We will be replaced if we don't continue to modernize. And it's so early and so exciting in that we're doing a lot of experimenting right now. So 5 years from now, I'm not sure. And part of our job as sort of the connective tissue of our particular industry is we get to talk to everybody and we need to bring our customers forward. And so really 2025 for us is about learning what that future is so that we can then bring the rest of the industry along with us.
Amazing. I love that thinking. And I feel like if any founder is being honest when they think about the future, that's probably the answer. Somehow you're not in tech in any way, but even then, I feel like that's the answer for practically every company, your company, my company, anyone listening in. So appreciate the honesty there.
Yeah.
Now, before we wrap, if anyone's listening in that just wants to follow along with you, where should we send them? Where should they go?
Chain.io, our name is our address. And then LinkedIn, both me and the company. I mean, one obviously links to the other. And those are really the two spots for us, unless you're a huge shipping geek, in which case you're going to see us at all the industry events that you go to already. So
amazing, man. Well, thank you for spending your Friday evening with us. Appreciate it.
I'm happy to be here.
This episode of Category Visionaries is brought to you by Frontlines Media, Silicon Valley's leading podcast production studio. If you're a B2B founder looking for help launching and growing your own podcast, visit frontlines.io/podcast. And for the latest episode, search for Category Visionaries on your podcast platform of choice. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.